Sit down, bro. Sit down. To start with, to start the program, I'll invite Brother Abbas Kamal for the recitation of the Quran. It's your choice. What is the loud salawat? Allah. Abbas, stay. Abbas.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم قل إن هدى الله هو الهدى ولئن اتبعت أهواءهم بعد الذي جاءك من العلم ما لك من الله من ولي ولا نصير الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حقه تلاوته أولئك يؤمنون به ومن يكفر به فأولئك هم الخاسرون يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين واتقوا يوما لا تجزي نفس عن نفس شيئا ولا يقبل منها عدل ولا تنفعها شفاعة ولا هم ينصرون وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين وإذ جعلنا البيت مثابة للناس وأمنا واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى وعهدنا إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل أن طهر بيتي للطائفين والعاكفين والركع السجود وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا بلدا آمنا وارزق أهله من الثمرات من آمن منهم بالله واليوم الآخر قال ومن كفر فأمتعه قليلا ثم أضطروه إلى عذاب النار وبئس المصير.
MashaAllah, Abbas, for that amazing recitation. Now I request Muhammad to come and recite Jafria Shura. Salawat. Allahumma.
اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبحلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما حاط به علمك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن خيرة الله وابن خيرته، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبكي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت مصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله المهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشيائهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وعلجمت وتناكبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد أضم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم، فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم وارزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة ويثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأل الله يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله ويرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يؤتيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يؤتي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما عظمها وعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بني أمية وابن الآخلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وكففه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم الآن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة الأبد العابدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به وآل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعنة منك والعذاب العليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقف هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليهم وعليهم السلام. اللهم الآن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر طابع ولا ذلك. اللهم الآن إصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا، اللهم لعنهم جميعا، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبكي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم للثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم الآن يزيد خامسة والآن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد والشمرة وعلى أبي سفيان وعلى زياد وعلى مروان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين، لك على مصابهم الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا محجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله.
MashaAllah Muhammad for that amazing recitation. Now invite Brother Ali Zaman for salam with a loud salawat.
Salawat. باپ سے بیٹے کا غم اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. باپ سے بیٹے کا غم اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. شامیوں نے خوب لوٹا تیرا اور میرا جہاں. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. لب جڑے تھے پیاس سے نہ رگوں میں خون تھا، نہ رگوں میں خون تھا. وہ صدا دینے کو ترسا نہ کھلی اس کی زبان. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. باپ بیٹے کا غم اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. یاد اکبر کو پری آئی ماں کی گود کی، آئی ماں کی گود کی. جب سنا سینے سے نکلی منہ سے نکلا ہائے ماں. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. باپ سے بیٹے کا غم اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. تاج گر نکلا ہوا ساس بھی اٹکا ہوا، ساس بھی اٹکا ہوا. نہ سنبھلتا نہ رگڑتا رہ گیا وہ عہدیاں. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. باپ سے بیٹے کا غم اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. شامیوں نے خوب لوٹا تیرا اور میرا جہاں. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. لب جڑے تھے پیاس سے نہ رگوں میں خون تھا، نہ رگوں میں خون تھا. وہ صدا دینے کو ترسا نہ کھلی اس کی زبان. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. تیگ گردن پہ چلی ساس باقی تھی ابھی، ساس باقی تھی ابھی. میں نے دیکھی ہے حلق میں اس کی ٹوٹی ہچکیاں. اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. باپ سے بیٹے کا غم اے سنو اکبر کی ماں. صلوات.
Thank you, Ali Zaman, for that amazing recitation. Now for Marcia, I request Brother Sajjad Rizvi, Murtaza Naqvi, and Ali Zaman for Marcia with a loud salawat. Surah Fatiha. جب تیروں سے مجھ روح ہوا قاسم نو اور خاک پہ گھوڑے سے گرا کاسی میں
نوشا
یوں شاہ کو چلانے لگے کاسی میں
نوشا
اور دنیا سے چچا جان چلا کاسی میں
نوشا
دنیا سے چچا جان چلا کاسی میں
نوشا
مرتا ہوں بے آس ہو اب جینے سے میرے برچی کی انی پار ہوئی سینے سے میں برچی کی انی پار ہوئی سینے سے میں گودی میں مجھے آ کے زمین پر سے اٹھا اور مشتاق ہوں دیدار کا شکل اپنی دکھا پامال ہوا جاتا ہوں میں مجھ کو بچاؤ یہ وقت مدد کا ہے چچا جان اب آؤ یہ وقت مدد کا ہے چچا جان اب آؤ گوڑے جو لائیں جسم پا دوڑاتے ہیں حضرت سب زخم میرے تن کے پھتے جاتے ہیں حضرت اور تن پر میرے تلوار پڑی تڑکوں سے میرے سہرے کی ہر ایک لڑی جلاؤ چچا مجھ پا مصیبت کی گھڑی ہے میں ماہوں کوئی دم کا اجل سر پر کھڑی مہماں ہوں کوئی دم کا اجل سر پر کھڑی ہے اور دل ٹکڑے میرا کر دیا برچی کی آنی نے فریاد ہے مارا مجھے تشنہ دہانی نے اور حضرت نے سنی جب یہ صدا ابن حسان کی بیتاب ہو خیمے سے نکل رہا لیران کی تھا دل پسند ماں کے نا طاقت تھی سخان کی فرماتے چلے دل سے کہ تقدیر دلہن کی فرماتے چلے دل سے کہ تقدیر دلہن کی اور آدھا نے کہا قاتلوں جلدی سڑے قاسم لے جائے حسین ابن علی پہ کر لے جائے حسین ابن علی پہ کر قاسم جب تیروں سے مجروح ہوا صلوات Before I call up our guest scholar, Sayyid Hassan Rizvi, there are some announcements regarding upcoming events. Firstly, there is a Q&A night this Friday night after the Majlis. For the Q&A Slido link, please see Brother Taha or Brother Fazl. Also, there's a fundraiser this Saturday night Please scan the QR code here for details and bring checks. Donations are appreciated. Where's the Malana? Again, there's a Slido on the WhatsApp link. Please post any questions to be answered this Saturday night. This Friday night. Tomorrow night, which is tomorrow night. He's coming, he's coming. Again, there's a fundraiser this Saturday night. Please scan the QR code here for details and bring checks. Donations are appreciated. And now, ready? And now I invite Sayyid Hassan Rizvi to the minbar to address tonight's majlis with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, it seems as though last night there's different opinions. Some said it was a little too heavy, some said it was just right. But I apologize if anybody thought the discussion where we kind of opened up and talked about if the Big Bang Theory really disproves God, does it throw any sort of wrenches and objections into us believing in Allah or not. So for those who maybe couldn't follow it and I didn't explain it properly or it was a bit too overwhelming, I apologize, but hopefully inshallah that'll be the worst of it and we can move on from there. So I'll skip the recap from that inshallah. But again, if there was something that wasn't understood or I didn't explain it properly, then just let me know and we can discuss it afterwards inshallah. So now we want to move forward. Right? Obviously, there's a lot more we could discuss regarding Tawheed, but we want to try to offer a few other ideas too to help us strengthen our Iman. What's important to know is whenever we have these theological conversations, we discuss Islamic theology and philosophy, whether it's for our own self, we're trying to strengthen our own Aqidah and our theology and our Iman, or we're just trying to be able to discuss, I don't want to say debate, but at least hold our own when we're talking to other people who are trying to challenge, Islam. What's important to always remember is that there's a specific path that has to be followed whenever we learn these subjects. Like everything else in life, right? So I don't know how many of you have stepped up to calculus yet in your math classes. Anybody doing calculus yet? Anybody doing algebra? Yeah? Okay. So the only way you can start getting into calculus is if you've mastered or succeeded in algebra, right? And algebra requires a basic understanding of arithmetic, right? And arithmetic, when you're a kid, you can't just jump into arithmetic. You got to have an idea of numbers first. So you can't skip around in any of these sciences, right? In this mathematics, you start with just learning numbers, then you learn how to, adjust numbers and perform operations on them. But then you can say, okay, now we can have unknowns in there, which is algebra, and then you jump onto calculus, right? That's how mathematics works. And every other science, every other discipline is the same thing. You start with basic introductory points, and then you can start building up on them. If there's some kid who barely understands numbers, and you want to start showing them an equation, right, like x plus 5 equals 10, they're going to be really confused. Like, what's the plus sign mean? Why is there an x there? I don't get it. Right? So you have to be able to start with the basic concepts, and then you build it up. When it comes to theology, aqaid, it's the same thing. And we were alluding to this a few nights ago. A lot of people, the issues that they have are something that's way far down the line. Right? When people start doubting and having questions about the ahkam, or some issue or ruling in Islam, or a question about Islamic philosophy. Why this? Why this? You can ask the questions, it's fine, but almost every single issue can only be answered if you have some basic understanding of Allah and God in the first place. There's a lot of atheists, and we mentioned this the night before, I think, that most of them might even say, even if we do believe in God, we have a problem with something else afterwards. So they start jumping on those other points first. Like, hold on a second. Do you actually believe in God or not? You give me a definition. Do you believe that there's a God that exists or not? Because if you don't even have that belief, there's no point in talking about any other quality or name or attribute of Allah. What's the point? What they try to do is create these smoke screens because people can't explain advanced theology or philosophy, and then they use that to destroy everything in religion. Well, that's not how it works. Why don't we start small? Let's make sure you understand that God exists first, even if it's a vague definition, just something, and then we can work on, okay, here's God, and now we start working on attributes and names. And then when we go from there, then we can start talking about God providing guidance to mankind. Then when we talk about guidance, we can say, what's that form of guidance? Right? Where does that end up? That's how you do it piece by piece, right? Everything requires these small building blocks. That's how aqidah and aqaid and theology works. A lot of people, they ask about all these deep irfani concepts too. That's everybody's favorite subject nowadays, right? Well, what is wahdatul wujud, and how do I learn how to teleport? Like, slow down. Why don't you read namaz first, right? And then maybe I can teach you how to teleport. I'm not saying I know. I'm not saying I use it anyway. Maybe, maybe not. I don't want to give away my powers yet, right? But yeah, if we can't, do basic wajibat, we don't stay away from our haram, why are we asking all these fancy questions? What's the point? It's not really going to be a benefit to us, right? I'm not saying don't ask. I'm not saying that these questions are unanswerable, but it's a very natural thing that you answer and understand the basics, and then we can build up from there. So that's what we hopefully will try to do now. Inshallah, assuming that what we've done up until now has already established for us a good baseline. At least most of the objections or doubts and shak that most of us probably have had since we were younger, hopefully most of that has gone away. I know there might be some other issues we didn't address, and we can take care of that maybe afterwards or some other night. But hopefully for now, at the very least, we have some concept of Allah and a God and a creator in our mind. Okay. Now, is just believing in God enough? Okay, that's it. I got La ilaha illallah. Now I should be like the best mu'min possible. My iman should be better than everybody else. I'm going to be the greatest Shia in the world. Does that sound reasonable? Does that actually happen? No, it doesn't. Even if we go through all these proofs, we have a deeper understanding of Tawheed, and maybe it's helped, inshallah, helped our iman. Maybe some of you have felt like, I understand it, I get the theory, and I understand what you're explaining, but it doesn't seem like it's changing my practice at all. I'm not really getting closer to Allah. I'm not changing my life. My behavior is not changing at all. But why is that? Why is it that even though we might strengthen our Tawheed, and we do believe that Allah is there, that He is the creator and all this other stuff, well, why isn't that actually offering any change in my life? Why do I still sin? I still do guna, ma'asiyah. What's going on there? And it goes down to this idea, perhaps, that just because we believe in someone's power, just because we believe in someone's authority, just because we believe in somebody's existence, doesn't mean that we actually trust them yet. We might know that there is somebody or something out there that has certain abilities and powers, but maybe we just haven't gotten to the level where we actually trust them. We don't trust their system. We don't trust their actions or behavior. Sometimes that happens, right? Let me give an example. If you can recite as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay. I'm going to give you two groups of laws, traffic laws. And I want you guys to figure out what's the difference between these two groups of laws. So, group A, or group number 1. Again, these are all just basic traffic laws, right? That even if you don't drive yet, hopefully you should know. Right? Okay, so the first one, right? So this is first group of laws. Driving at night, right? You're supposed to turn on your lights, right? It's a basic rule. Okay. Whenever it's raining, you're required to put on your windshield wipers, right? At a red light, you're supposed to stop. At least I don't know the full rules in New York, but at the least driver and passenger in the front are supposed to wear their seatbelt, right? If you have a child at a certain age, they're supposed to sit in a car seat, right? Whether it's a booster or front facing back, all that. Okay, so that's group number 1. Keep that in your mind, right? Driving at night, lights on. When it rains, windshield wipers on. Stopping at a red light, wearing your seatbelt. Okay, that's group number 1. Group number 2 is, number 1, the speed limit. Right? Whatever the speed limit is, you're not allowed to even go 1 mile over that, right? Whenever you want to change lanes or make a turn, you're supposed to use your what? Blinkers. So you're saying blinkers, which is great. My Fabi parents, may Allah bless their souls, I didn't know that, sometimes when we're taught concepts and ideas, we're taught the very Fabi Desi version of it. I didn't know that. So when I would tell my friends, I'd be like, yo, put on your indicator. They're like, what? Your indicator. Indicator? What are you saying? I was like, blinker? Like, yeah, what's wrong with you? I had one cousin that went to Home Depot once and was asking for a lorta. He's like, excuse me, where do you keep the lortas? He's like, excuse me? He's like, lortas. Oh, sorry, lota. Yeah. Sometimes we learn these concepts, we don't know that it might be foreign to other people. Anyway, so speed limit is 1. Using your indicators or your blinkers, turn signals, that's another. When you're driving, you're operating a motor vehicle, are you allowed to use your phone? No. All right, so these are 3 basic laws on this group. What's the difference between these 2 groups? What do you guys think? The drivers here should at least know. First group is what? Turning on your lights at night, using your windshield wiper when it rains, stopping at a red light, putting on your seatbelt. Second group is obeying the speed limit, not using your phone while driving, using your turn signals and blinkers. What's the difference between these 2 groups? There's some people who don't, I think, want to plead the fifth. They don't want to admit that there's an actual difference between these 2. One is more important than the other. Okay. So, because a lot of people would think that one is more important than the other, how does that translate into people's behaviors in terms of a driver? Which group of laws do almost all drivers actually follow? The first group, right? Almost all drivers will put on their lights at night, assuming they remember. They'll put on their windshield wipers when it's raining. They'll stop at a red light, and most of them, at least, will put on their seatbelt. Okay? Especially nowadays, that if you don't, your car will start beeping at you like crazy. But how many drivers actually obey the speed limit? Most don't, right? And it's funny that, look, I'm from New Jersey. I know New York drivers, I know Jersey drivers. The worst drivers probably in the world, right? It's terrible drivers out here. We're so bad that if somebody is obeying the speed limit, we get upset with them, right? Like, what are you doing obeying the law? Like, get out of the way. So we get upset if somebody's obeying that law. So we don't obey it, right? Turn signals? No. What's the point, right? Let me just move over real quick. What's the big deal? We don't do that. And cell phone while driving? Oh man, that's the worst, right? So a lot of people it's not a big deal. And the difference for all of these is what? Is that in the back of people's minds is that one of them, they actually see a reason for it. Like, yeah, there's safety reasons for why I'm going to turn on my lights, I'm going to use my windshield wipers, I'm going to stop at a red light, and I'm going to keep my seatbelt on, and I keep my kids in their car seats because it's safety concerns, and I understand that. But speed limit, that's just something that a bunch of white people made in some room. Who cares about that? They don't know what's going on. I know how to drive. I'll be okay. Oh, there's enough space on the road. I can navigate. I'm a good driver. I'm a great driver, actually. Blinkers, indicators, turn signals. Oh, what's the point? The guy's like 5-10 feet behind me. I can go. Who cares? It's not a big deal. I'll just squeeze in the lane. What's the problem? What's the point? Phone while driving? Oh, everybody thinks they're what? They're a multitasker. Yeah, I can pay attention. Statistics say otherwise, right? It's the number one cause for fatalities now. But everybody thinks that, no, it's okay. I can do that. I got a giant screen in front of me over here. I got a screen over here. A movie playing over here, scrolling over here, and I can pay attention to the road, apparently. That's how it works. So everybody thinks that they know better than the law for that second group. First group, we know, no. The law, we understand it, and we trust those laws, so we'll obey. But the second group, no. We don't trust it. My aql tells me otherwise. I know that I'm beyond and I'm above the law. This same idea is what applies to us with Islam and to Allah as well too in the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. There's a bunch of things that you and I say, okay Allah, you and I are on the same page. Okay Allah, I understand pork is nasty, so I'm not going to eat it. That makes sense. I get it, it's gross. Some of us see, okay, alcohol is harmful. I get that. Destroys brain cells, destroy your liver. Okay, I won't do it. I get it, no problem. But you know what? Some of this other stuff, Allah, haram music, it doesn't really affect me. So thank you for your opinion, Allah, but I'll do whatever I feel like. No, thank you very much. Just because it has these profanity and whatever, it doesn't affect me, don't worry. Okay? I know Allah, for weak people, they shouldn't do it, but I can do it. I'm okay. You know what? Maybe I'll use profanity myself. What's the big deal? Allah doesn't hurt anybody, right? Nobody's getting hurt because I do that. Okay, Allah, you mentioned gambling, that's not allowed. Oh, what's the big deal? Right? A couple of my friends, we're just going to sit around and play poker, right? It's 25 cents, $1. Well, nobody's getting hurt. We're not, using a lot of money. What's the big deal? Or, it's just there for sports, right? Because that's the new thing now, sports betting, right? Sports gambling. It's online. It's not that much money. What's the big deal? And you know what? It's not even betting, actually. I know this team's definitely going to win, right? I know these players. Okay, sure. So you and I think we know better. And there's a whole list of laws that we think we know better. Okay, Allah, I know that you mentioned all this stuff. 1400 years ago, maybe that was a problem, but we're advanced now. We don't need those laws. This is where a lot of us have a problem. We're not rejecting Allah. We're not saying, Allah, you don't exist. We're not saying we don't believe that you're our creator. We don't reject that He's our sustainer. All those things are still there. We're just saying that, Allah, you say some things and I agree, and sometimes I don't agree, and sometimes I don't trust you. That's what, deep down, that's how we're acting. That's what we're thinking. You can say whatever you want in the Quran, you can share me all these riwayat, but okay, I don't like it. I don't want to do that. I think I know better. That's what's really going on deep down. There's a beautiful hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, where he's reported to have said, لا يصدق إيمان عبد حتى يكون بما في يد الله سبحانه أوثق منه بما في يدي. That the iman of an abd, the iman of a servant and slave of Allah, will never go through this process of tasdeeq, which we mentioned before. It'll never be true, it'll never be real. Meaning you're going to have fake iman as long as what? حَتَّى يَكُونُوا بِمَا فِي يَدِ اللَّهِ. Those things that are in Allah's hands are stronger, more authentic, and more valuable than what is in my own hand. So until I trust what is in Allah's hand more than what's in my own hand, then our iman is never going to be real. It's going to be fake iman. It's going to be weak iman. We can literally hold something in our hands and say that I think that this has a lot of value to it. Where Allah could be saying there's no value whatsoever to that. Say, okay, that's fine, Allah, but I trust myself more than you. Or the exact opposite. We can have something and say, I don't see the value of this. And Allah says, this is the most valuable thing that exists. We say, I don't agree. Amir al-Mu'mineen is trying to tell us that our framework, our orientation has to change. We have to have a lot of trust in Allah's system. So much so that I am trusting Allah more than I would trust myself or any other, regular human being. That's the idea. That's the test. That's what's tough. That's the point of us trying to increase our iman. The whole idea of iman, again, we're not saying blind faith. I don't want to get it confused. We're not blindly following anything. The whole point, what we're trying to show is that other people might do this blindly. They might have no reason and just use emotions and feelings. That's fine. But you and I are saying, according to the school of the Ahlul Bayt, they have said, no, your aql should agree with all of these things. Your aql can point you to Allah. Your aql will point you towards the justice of Allah. Your aql will point you towards nubuwah, to the Quran, to all of this stuff, if you actually utilize it properly. But we end up taking the aql and just point back to ourselves and we stop and then we're done. So you have to be very, very careful. So what we want to, inshallah, try to discuss and go through is establishing why we should be trusting Allah in the first place. What does it actually mean? Or in other words, is Allah actually just? All these rules and laws that we might think are unjust or don't make sense, they seem oppressive, they seem like they might oppress women over men, it's unfair to this or that, like what do we do? Do I actually trust Allah or not? Is it possible that Allah does injustice? Can that even happen or not? What does this stuff even mean? So that's what we want to try to discuss, inshallah. If you can recite, as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So before we start opening it up and asking the question about whether Allah is just or not, remember we talked about this, that there are a lot of buzzwords and plastic words out there. Things that a word somebody will throw out and we all think we have the same meaning, but in reality we don't have the same meaning in our mind. And one of those clearest examples in our society is the word justice. I'm sure each and every one of us would probably have a different definition, right? You ask other Muslims, they might have their own definition of justice. We ask non-Muslims, they're going to have their own definition of justice. You ask Republicans versus Democrats, they're going to have their own definitions of justice. People outside of America, North America, and the Western world, they might have their own definition of justice. So we have to make sure we are on the same page to some degree about what justice actually entails and what it means. Some of us, and this is probably what exists in our minds mostly, when we think about the word justice, automatically we jump to politics, right? Justice for Palestine, for example, right? Or when somebody is jailed or killed unjustly, right? We say justice for so-and-so individual, right? Justice for Trayvon Martin, or justice for George Floyd, whatever it is, right? We just put these names there. We say justice for X, Y, Z. That's how we use these ideas. The idea of political or social justice comes in that famous Pledge of Allegiance that all of you who are born and raised here were probably taught that, right? With liberty and justice for all. That's the idea, is what they claim, at least. How much it actually works, not really. But they claim that the whole idea is that there's supposed to be justice for everybody here, political and social justice, right? So that's the idea. So a large part of it that jumps in our mind that we end up talking about and we argue about is about politics. There's a more realistic thing that occurs to us, and that's in regards to our own personal desires. Sometimes we use the word justice, sometimes we use other words. When somebody takes away our haqq, they take away our rights, sometimes we start invoking this idea of justice or injustice. Or we say something is fair or unfair, or that we've been oppressed, something like that. And it could be something incredibly large, like somebody that you might know, maybe family member or friend, does something to you. You might say, like, my family treats me unfairly, they oppress me, right? They've done injustice to me. Sometimes it's something that's serious, that has to be discussed and arbitrated and solved. Sometimes it's nothing serious, but we take it very personally. Let's say, somebody, you order pizza and you start arguing about who's supposed to get the last slice. And one of your brothers or sisters, they grab it first. You're like, oh, this is unjust, this is unfair, right? You start waving a flag in the air, and you start calling out and chanting in the streets. Because you feel like you've been, something's zulm's been done to you just because you didn't get the last slice of pizza or something like that, because you were hungry or whatever it is. But you feel it personally, right? That's what usually happens in our daily lives. Something that we don't like, that goes against what we feel is right, we call that injustice. That justice was not done here. We might not use these grandiose terms, but we still feel that our haqq, our right, was taken away. So, now we have to figure out, okay, what definition, we have all these ideas in our mind, but what definition can we use? Philosophers, to this day, keep debating about this. So we want to go through a few of them before we jump into one that you and I have hopefully been taught. We want to say, okay, what are some other people's definitions, and do they actually work or not? All right, so let's go through some of these. Inshallah, if you can recite, as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So there are some philosophers who say, you know what justice means? Justice means whatever makes the most amount of people happy. That's justice. So, if the most amount of people, the majority, basically are happy with this decision, then that would be just. But if the majority are unhappy, then that would be unjust. All right, it's basically what they call a democratic theory of justice to some degree. If the majority say, you know what, we, for example, want to talk about the Big Bang Theory, then that would be just. If the majority say, no, it's boring, we don't want to talk about it, and I did, then it would be unjust, right? That's the idea. So it's the criteria, the barometer, the milak is happiness. So, okay, fine. Does that sound like a good criteria to have? It's about happiness? Right? To use this democratic theory to make the majority okay with something? Anybody who knows basic history would know every single society at some point, that's a democratic society, there are some laws that they put in place, which means that the majority are happy, but when you put that thing and make it stand the test of time, they would say, no, that was actually unjust. The majority of people in this country were happy with slavery, right? They were happy with it, they were okay with it, and then after a few years, they're like, you know what, maybe we're not so happy with it anymore, and then they change their mind. The majority of people in a certain country will vote in a party that says, you know, whites are supreme and everybody else has to be eliminated. Okay, that makes, white supremacy makes them happy, that's great. But is that just? No, obviously it's not just. The majority of people in a certain country say, you know what, we want to commit a genocide on the Palestinians. Right, we want to wipe them out and take their land. Is that just? Obviously not. Although they might think from their own framework that, yeah, that's what makes sense. So it's very clear that no, a majority does not define what is just and what is unjust. Just history alone has shown us. The rest of the world has said, no, the majority can actually vote in evil. They can be evil. They can be happy with evil and they can be okay with it. And this is where psychologists and sociologists jump in and say, you know what? This is where people, they prey on the fear and chaos in societies. When people are scared, when they're afraid, this is when politicians will come in, they prey on that fear and that chaos, and they start to vote in and get more power from them, right? As we know, those who follow American politics, the Patriot Act, occupation, invasion of Afghanistan, of Iraq, was all happening, what? Post 9/11 stuff, all because of fear. Americans had fear. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, actually that was a bad decision. Well, too late. You were scared and they scared us and scared everybody and you voted all this stuff in. Think about even how scared some Shias got, right, at that point too, and some might say foolish decisions that many Shias made back at that time because they were so scared. The political decisions, the politicians that were supported by many back then out of fear. Right, let's just do this, it'll make everybody happy. We know that obviously in hindsight many of them now regret that decision, although many were trying to tell them that this is not the best decision there. So that's one definition that we say, no, it doesn't make sense. People would not agree with this if you actually make them think about it. All right, what's another one? Others say justice is when the rule of law is followed and observed. The rule of law is followed and observed. So let me give an example. Those of us who have gone back to our quote-unquote home countries, our homelands, our mother countries, whether Pakistan or India, Lebanon, Iraq, anywhere in Africa, right, wherever it is, you tell me, how often is law upheld and followed? Is the rule of law normal? It's not in most of these countries. From very serious things, like if you want to get, something done, like let's say there's an issue with your telephone or electricity, most of you who are from Pakistan know that if you're not bribing somebody, unfortunately, then you're not going to get anything done. That police will pull people over for unjust, unfair reasons, and then what do you have to do? You have to bribe them in order to get out of the ticket. I'm not encouraging that, obviously, but this is what many people think, that's the way of life. On the road, you might have lanes, but nobody cares. You just drive like, it's like a video game pretty much, right? And most of the quote-unquote third world, nobody's following these rules of law. They're just driving however they want, weaving in and out of traffic, it doesn't matter. You see like 15 people sitting on a motorcycle, right? Nobody cares, no helmets, right? Do whatever. It's like the wild, wild west pretty much. So the rule of law is not observed. They might have laws, but nobody cares. Some would say, yeah, that's an unjust society. There's no rule of law that's a standard. Where they say, look at the beautiful West, where people are driving in their lanes, although they might switch it, not using their indicator, right? But most people are going to be in their lanes. Most people will follow basic rule of law. You won't see chaos in the streets, generally speaking. So see, this is where the West, this Western civilization upholds law. People generally follow the law, so this makes it a just society, and the other societies are unjust because people don't follow law. That's what some people define. Say, okay, fine, but it goes back to the first point, the first definition. What happens if the laws are actually unjust in the first place? And people break them on purpose, what we call in social movements, civil disobedience. So what we say when you have, during the civil rights movement, when they were not allowed to sit right in the front of the bus, Rosa Parks and others, for example, say, you know what, I'm just going to sit in the front of the bus. She broke the law, didn't she? Right? She was a criminal, technically. Or when people were, these pro-Palestinian protests were happening on campuses. Was that legal or illegal? It was illegal. They weren't allowed to do this. They were sitting on private property. It's not government, it's not public. They were sitting on private property and they were not allowed to be there. They were doing something illegal. But because they saw there was a greater injustice, people saw that no, what we're doing by breaking the law, we're being just. We're standing up for justice. So following the rule of law, following laws that are in place is not a good barometer and a good standard for determining whether some place or something is just or not. Because it's very clear that sometimes there are unjust rules and laws in place. And sometimes, as many, I'm not saying it, but many philosophers and those who are the founders of these grassroots movements, they say the only way to stand up against this is through civil disobedience. You have to push back against it. And every society has done that. Even a staunch, hardcore, right-wing American who says you have to follow all the laws. Like, hold on, your Tea Party buddies in the beginning, they're the ones who tossed this tea overseas. They were criminals. The founding fathers were criminals too. They went against the crown, right? They went against the king. That was criminal activity, right? They were rebels. So, whenever you think something's unjust, then you will be okay with criminal activity. But then once you take power and you start making the law, then everybody else becomes a criminal, right? Very, this nifaq that exists in some people. So, okay, that doesn't work. That's not a good definition of justice either. Okay. Now we come to another one. And this one hopefully will sound like it should be the best, right? Let's say, okay, all of these things about rules and laws, we understand that that's not going to work. Majority, democracy, that doesn't work. Justice is all about doing what is good, allowing goodness, and preventing harm and evil. Not doing what is bad. Standing up for morality. Like, that's what's just. I said, oh, that sounds great. That's beautiful. Right? We would probably agree with something like that, right? Being morally good and upholding the moral good and stopping and preventing what is evil and it's morally bad. Like, wonderful. Okay, cool. Who gets to decide that? It's a nice definition you have, but okay, who decides that now? Think about, again, all these contemporary conversations, things that people are still debating right now. Many will agree that the black population, African Americans, whatever word, phrase you want to use, there was oppression that happened through slavery, and some of that you might argue is systemic. Everybody has a different opinion about that. And how do you solve that, right? Because of how now certain neighborhoods, schools do not get the same amount of funding. They do not have the same access to certain things. You can make many arguments like this. So people have argued about what is the solution. One group says reparations, financial reparations. You have to right the wrongs of history by making up for that. Since they don't have the same starting point as others, you have to make up for that starting point by giving them reparations for that. Because of this generational trauma and harm and systemic issues that exist. That's what some argue. And others say, well, that's not good, that's not just. Why would somebody who had nothing to do with slavery, doesn't even stand for it, and their ancestors maybe didn't have slaves, why would they have to give their hard-earned money to somebody else who themselves wasn't a slave? Like, what do you do? How do you even determine who should get and who shouldn't get? How do you even calculate that? So they say that's a weird, that's a tough issue to figure out. What is the morally right or wrong thing to do? Okay, we come to something like abortion. There's debates on all sides of that too. Even among Muslims, when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Muslims, Shias were debating about what stance should we have. You had on one side people who were saying, well, my body, my choice. If we might not agree with it, it might not be okay in Islam, but I can't force my idea on somebody else. Right? If somebody else's, their law or their lack of religion allows them to do it, why would I want to stop them? Why would I want to burden their family with this? So, we should allow it. What's the big deal? We won't do it ourselves, but that's our own religion. I'm not going to force. And this is where they start quoting La ikraha fid din and Lakum dinukum waliya din and all these ayat that people have in their pockets at the right moment. Right? And then the other group says, no, it's unjust and it's unfair. You should not be killing unborn children, and we should be preventing people from doing the same thing, so we have to stop it. So even though those who are pretty much the Christian right, who are anti-abortion, pro-life, as you call it, even though we might not want to side with them on everything, on this we'll side with them. So we had many Muslims and Shias who said that should be our opinion. So people were arguing about that too. Again, we talk about the alphabet group, the rainbow group, all that stuff. Same exact ideas. Do we force our ideas or not? We should show love and appreciation. All these different ideas. People are still going to be arguing. What is the right moral decision and what is wrong? What is evil? What is actually good? What is actually bad? This theory sounds very good in theory. But when it comes to practice, nobody has any sort of barometer, no milak, no criteria to determine what is actually good and what is actually bad. Atheists have tried, saying, look, we're going to use rational principles to determine what is good and bad. And they haven't done it yet. You have these famous individuals like Sam Harris, who's written a whole book about it. But from the beginning, his point cannot be proven. It's impossible. There is nothing in science that ever talks about what is good and bad. There's nothing in science that can tell you that. This is why, scientifically, science will show you how to build a bomb, but science will never tell you whether it's a good idea to actually drop a bomb on people. But when you have evil people engaging in science, like the Americans, right? Those of you who have seen Oppenheimer, then for them, they'll use it for whatever purposes they deem to be good and evil. What did they say back then in World War II? It's better that we drop bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because that will actually save more lives in the end. That's what they determined was actually morally good and bad. The only bombs dropped in history was by America, obviously, right? And it was scientists who worked and said, yeah, this is the morally right thing to do. Science and rationality doesn't determine all this stuff. And anybody who tries to use that as a criteria, then they don't come with any certainty whatsoever. So this is where we now come to the definition and the beautiful, eloquent, short phrase taught to us by Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wassalam. He's reported to have said, Al-adl yad'u al-umur mawadi'aha. Justice, adl, is putting everything in its rightful place. And in this context, who is the only one to be able to actually, from that highest view possible, put everything where it belongs? Allah, obviously. No human understands where everything should go. I mean, very simply, you and I, when, let's say, we're decorating our room or our home, we have a vision in mind, right? I want my couch to go here, my TV to go over here, exercise equipment to go over here. If you have an azakhana or a namaz room, this is how it's going to be designed. You have that in mind. If somebody who doesn't see your full your kind of blueprint that's in your mind, they see it kind of halfway, right? Maybe you start moving things around. It looks strange. They come in, they're like, why would you put your couch over here? Like, well, you don't have the full idea that I have in my mind. Of course, you're going to think it looks strange. Like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Yeah, because you don't know what's in my mind. You don't have the full picture. This is the same thing that happens to you and I. We don't have that full picture, so we see things as being unjust or unfair because we don't see how Allah is moving these chess pieces. Sorry to those who are in Taqlid by Sistani, right? Checkers pieces if you want, right? Allah sees the whole game and knows how to move every single piece properly, how everything fits nicely, so that everybody's tests happen according to how they need to be tested. How everybody can grow according to the issues that happen in their lives, that the family that we're put in, the community that we're gifted. Everything that happens, Allah sees all these moves. He knows exactly what needs to happen. But you and I, what do? We have this tunnel vision. We have short-term vision. We don't see what's really going on. And we start to say, I know what's better. Even though it's very obvious we don't have that much knowledge. We have a small amount of it, but we think we know everything. Right? So justice is about putting everything in its rightful place. So now the question is this. Do we actually believe that Allah is putting everything in its rightful place or not? I believe that He exists, but do I actually believe that this is what Allah is doing? That everything is going in its rightful place? Or, na'udhu billah, is Allah actually putting things where they don't belong sometimes? Is that possible or not? I'm going to quickly go through that. I know we're running out of time, but let me quickly go through that discussion. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This idea of putting something where it doesn't belong, right? Like, obviously there's this cup holder, bottle holder over here, so it's clear that that's where it belongs. If I took it and I, try to place it, I wonder if I can. All right, maybe I can do it. All right, I can't do it. If I tried to do that, you would say, what's wrong with this guy? It's getting too hot in here, right? He's freaking out. He shouldn't be doing something like that. So if you saw me doing that, you'd think that there's some weird reason I have, and it wouldn't make any sense, right? So we have to figure out, is there any reason that Allah would have to put something in a place that it doesn't belong? In other words, does Allah have any good reason to do injustice and dhulm to anybody or anything? When you think about it, the reason why anything or anybody would do or perform something unjust, would do dhulm to somebody, you can basically boil it down to 4 different reasons, right? The first is this. I'm going to give an example, not through this one, but let's say, do they serve chai over here? They do, right? Okay. So let's say you go up, you grab some chai. Now after the program, you're sitting with maybe some of your friends outside or at a table. You put down your cup of chai, right? So you and your friends are enjoying your chai, you're talking, and then all of a sudden you see that your friend grabs your cup of chai and takes a sip out of it. And you're like, hey, what are you doing? That's my chai. Like, oh, sorry, I thought it was mine. Right? Did they take away your haqq and your right? Absolutely. Right? They weren't allowed to do that. They did oppress you, technically. But what was the reason? It was jahala, it was jahl. It was like they were ignorant about it. Like, oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry. So, can we apply that ruling to Allah? Can Allah say, oh, I didn't mean to put that earthquake over there, I'm really sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. Well, clearly not. If you have any religion's understanding of God is that He has knowledge over everything, so it's not like Allah can be jahil, na'udhu billah, over something. So that reason we throw out the door. Okay. Second reason why dhulm can take place. Same example, you're sitting with your friend for chai. Now, sometimes what happens is you have your chai, and sometimes you get those last little drops. You have to turn the thing, hold the thing or the percolator, whatever, over, and you're taking it last drops. So you get the last cup, and your friend's behind you. And you're like, ugh, chai's over. And they really need chai. You sit down with them, you're sipping your chai, they're getting really jealous, so they wait for you to turn, and they grab that chai and they take a sip. So they knew it was yours, and what's their reason? They're like, look, there was no chai left, and I really needed it. This is the only solution that I could find, so I did it. So it's not because they're jahil, it's because what? They had a need, they had a desire, and they needed you to take care of it for them, even if it meant oppressing you. So okay, Allah, is there some need you have from us? Allah, do you need something from me? How is that possible? If Allah is the one who gave us everything, how is it possible for Him to say, oh, that ilm I gave you, sorry, I forgot, I need that back? That's ridiculous. If He's given us everything, and He doesn't lose anything when He gives, He has no need for any of us. All right, okay, so that reason's out the door too. All right, number 3. Same scenario. But now, let's change it up a bit. Now, maybe it's one of your parents, they're sitting down with one of their friends, they're having chai. Now, let's do this example, right? Let's say there's some people having chai. Your parent comes to you and says, beta, beti, I need some chai. You say, well, the chai is finished, it's gone. There's no more. It's like, okay, the person over there, they don't need it anymore, go take it from them and give it to me. It's like, no, like, Ammi Abu, I can't do that. That's dhulm. I'm a Muslim, I'm a practicing Muslim, I cannot do that. Astaghfirullah, I'll never do that. I'm like, if you don't, I'm taking your phone away. Okay, I will go and do it then, no problem. So they go, oh man. Google thinks I said set a timer for 2 minutes. No, Google, I did not say that. Unless this is Google trying to tell me to wrap it up. Okay, sorry. So your parents sometimes, they'll force you to do that. A more realistic example is what? Is sometimes, and this is back when there used to be home phones. I don't think that exists anymore, right? But there used to be actual phones that people had in their homes, right? And sometimes people would call that house line. And maybe your child would pick up. And they would say, I need to speak to your mom or dad. And you'd ask, Ammi Abu, so-and-so, uncle or auntie is asking for you. Tell them I'm not here, right? So what happens is one of the other reasons we end up performing that dhulm, we do something which we're not supposed to be doing, is because we're kind of forced. Now this is not at gunpoint obviously, but we feel like we have no other choice, right? It's ijbari, majburan. I have no other choice. A realistic example in history, which is a sad example to think about, But think about when Saddam, Mal'un, when he conscripted all these Iraqis to go and fight the Islamic Republic of Iran. Shias fighting Shias. Shias were not volunteering for this, obviously. They didn't want to do this. But what would happen? He would torture their families. He would hold them at gunpoint. He would kill people, imprison them. He said, if you don't go out into battle and fight, then I'll just kill you over here. So many of them had no choice. What many of them did, if you don't know the history, is that they would go, and when they would see people in battle, they would run over. They'd throw down their arms and they'd run over. This is why you have a significant Iraqi population from that generation that moved over to Iran. They escaped the battles like that. And they would go over to Iran, and that's how they made their lives. They didn't want to fight, right? They're fellow Shias, obviously. But some people, they're forced. They have no other choice. This is why they might oppress somebody else. Now we say, is there somebody that's forcing Allah to do any of this? If we understood the proofs from yesterday that Allah's wajib al-wujud, that existence is in His hand, nobody gave Him existence, nobody created Him, nobody's giving Him powers, He has everything in and of Himself. He doesn't have any sort of need from outside, nobody can push Him or force Him to do anything. So that need is gone too, right? So there's a few other reasons too, but lack of time, I want to skip those. What you and I can do is this: any reason you can think of, whether it's ignorance, need, inability, selfishness, being emotional, try to apply that to Allah and say, is there any way that for the reason that you and I would do dhulm or do something wrong, can that reason, can that idea apply to Allah? And it can't, if we understand Allah's traits, His sifat, His names properly. And that's why we said in the beginning, if we don't have a good concept of Allah, that's where somebody can think that Allah can do injustice in the first place. Because we have a vague idea, Allah ek, and that's it, we're done. Like, no, that's not enough. Understand what it actually means to be wajibul wujud, to have existence. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, all these sifat that we should have learned properly in whatever schools that we took part in, or from our parents, wherever it was. In those names, in those sifat, that's where we learned that the only thing that's possible, the only thing that Allah can do is adl. And it goes beyond that. Allah is not just, but the only thing that He does is what's absolutely perfect and khair for every single creation. That's all that Allah does. He doesn't even restrict blessings. He says, no, if you are receptive to khair and goodness, I'll give it to you. Even to the worst of the worst. Like Yazid and Saddam and all these, mal'unin over history. He says, look, even though I know that they will commit evil, because they can handle existence and life and all this, I'll give them that. As tough as it might be for us to think about. As much as we think about every Muharram sometimes, why did Allah allow this to happen? Well, Allah knows something that you and I don't know. Same thing He told the angels, I know what you don't know. I know that there's certain puzzle pieces that need to fit together in order for Shi'ism to be what it is right now. You may not understand it, but it has to be like this, based on all the variables of history. Everything just lines up one after the other, and this is how we are where we are right now. You and I might not see the hikmah, we don't see the wisdom, we don't see that insight, we don't see the justice, but it doesn't mean it's not present. But sometimes it does overtake us. Sometimes it gets too difficult for us to understand. We say, okay, fine, I understand Allah is just, merciful, compassionate, I understand all of this, but I just don't get, why am I still seeing all this evil in the world though? Why is it that those who are trying to do good, like Shias, like other Muslims, like good people who might be non-Muslims, why do they seem like they have such terrible lives? Shias especially, why are they oppressed almost more than anybody else? Why are the Palestinians why are they suffering like this? And why are these most evil people throughout history, why do they get all these blessings? Why do they live the best lives? Money, power, control, fame, why do they get all that? Shouldn't we get that? Allah, we're trying to do what you want, like shouldn't we get gifted in the dunya? Like we pray for that, we pray for hasana in the dunya and akhirah, we pray for goodness in both worlds, but sometimes it seems like people who don't listen to you, don't obey you, they get everything. Why is that the case? Inshallah, we want to try to discuss that Saturday night, inshallah, because tomorrow night will be the Q&A. We'll try to go through as many Slido questions as possible tomorrow night. There's a lot that have come there, but we'll try, inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq, to answer those questions tomorrow night, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A final loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam is on his way with his companions and his family, on his way to Karbala, but still at that time thinking that they were on their way to Kufa. The historians tell us that at one point when they had camped, they had stopped, pitched tents, Imam Hussein had fallen asleep. And at this point, in his dream, he had come to learn that this safar, this journey that they were all on, was going to lead them towards shahada, to their eventual demise and death. And when he woke up, he shared this with some individuals. And amongst those that he shared it with was his eldest son, according to most, Ali al-Akbar. He said that, I have seen that this path of ours will lead to our shahada, to our death, to everybody that's with us over here. And then for those who are left, it'll be hardship and difficulty and bala for the rest of them. And Ali al-Akbar, with his great ma'rifah, with his shuja'ah, with his bravery, he says to his father, Abata, Baba, what does it matter? Who cares? Whether we jump towards death or whether death jumps on us, it pounces on us, who cares? Alasna ala al-haq, aren't we on truth? That doesn't make a difference. And this, they say, was just Imam wanting to, just like every father, once in a while they want to test, have I done a good job as a father? Have I raised my child right? Even when our children get older, a father can never really let go of that wilayah, the guardianship that they have over their children. And sometimes younger children have a difficulty understanding that. A parent never stops becoming a parent. Yes, children grow older, they exercise their free will, they become more mature, they become independent, but parents never lose that loving, protective feeling, especially fathers. Fathers always feel like they have to be protective and watching over their children. So perhaps this was Imam Hussein still wanting to see the level of ma'rifah of his beloved Ali al-Akbar. Now we fast forward to Ashura. We remember how the mu'mineen, the companions, have now gone one by one. They all have come, asked for permission to go out into the battlefield, and all of them have gone now and given their lives and become shaheed. And now, contrary to everyone else that had come and asked Imam Hussein for permission, when Aun and Muhammad had come and asked, Imam rejected them initially. When Hud came and asked, even Imam there says, you just came to our camp, you can't go out. When Habib came, he said, Habib, you are one of the older ones, why don't we wait? When Abbas came, Abbas said, you're the Alamdar, I can't let you go out yet. When Qasim came, he said, no Qasim, the amanat that was left behind by my brother, I can't let you go. Every single time someone would come, he would reject and say, no, it's not your time yet. The only difference, the only istisna, the only exception is his son, Ali al-Akbar. When Ali al-Akbar comes to him, riwayat say right away, Imam knows what he's going to say. He knows what's going to happen over here. He knows that this is his na'ib and his wakil that's going to go out. He knows what his answer is going to be, but immediately his eyes begin to fill up with tears. He waits. He wants to feel proud of what his son is about to say. And when Ali Akbar comes and says, Abata, Baba, do you give me permission? It's almost as if Imam doesn't even wait for him to finish asking. He says, of course, go. Yes, you are my entrusted one. Go out and go fight. Make me proud. This is the only time we see in the history in Karbala where Imam pushes and tells somebody to go right away. He wants to see his son. He wants to be proud of his son going out. But he gives him conditions. He says, before you go, I want to make sure you go and get permission from the women as well. Especially Zainab, you need to go get permission from the women. You know that your aunt Zainab, she loves you more than even her own children. This is the relationship that Zainab had with Ali al-Akbar. It's going to be very difficult for her, but you have to go and say your final salam to her too. So they say, Ali al-Akbar, proud, ready to go out to fight, goes into the tents, begins to say salam. And remember, mu'mineen, mu'minat, we are told that Ali al-Akbar is known as the Shabi of Rasulullah. That he's somebody who looked like Rasulullah. He acted like Rasulullah. He sounded like Rasulullah. This is why on that Fajr, in the morning of Ashura, they had Ali al-Akbar recite the adhan. The same as Azan Ali Akbar that we commemorate every year. Why? It's because Imam Hussein wanted the hearts of the enemies maybe to change a little bit. Maybe if they hear something that sounds like the voice of Rasulullah, maybe they might leave this battle, maybe they might come to our side. This is how much mercy and compassion Imam Hussein had for his enemies, even till the last moment. But now Ali al-Akbar is in the tents. The women see him. And they say, according to some, that they made 2 lines and they told him, Ali al-Akbar, walk between us so we can do your ziyarah one last time. But this was very difficult. The women, the children had a very special relationship with Ali al-Akbar. So as Ali al-Akbar in full warrior attire was trying to leave these tents, they said that these young children would grab his abba, grab his cloak and pull him back. They say, don't leave us, please. When we want to see Rasulullah, we look at you, don't leave us. We need somebody to protect us after everyone has gone. All the companions have left, we don't want to lose you too. The other women who are there, that he's related to, they hold him back and they give him one last hug. They say, please stay here a little bit longer. Let us do ziyarat of you one last time. And finally, he says, no, I have to go out to battle. Let me go. My father has already given me permission. Let me go. And finally, they're able to go. But they say, but this was very, very difficult for Zainab. She was very, very close to Ali al-Akbar. So she hugged him very, very tightly. And she cried a lot when she was trying to send her final salams to Ali al-Akbar. She says, please, oh my aunt, my father has already given me permission, just let me go now, please. So she said, fine. With hesitancy in her heart, in her mind, in her arms, she said, fine, I'll let you go. Imam Hussein was outside his tents, proudly waiting. And he sent Ali al-Akbar. And they say that over here he chanted, he said very loudly so that the enemies would hear. He said, Allah be a witness, Allah be a shahid to this, that I am sending out somebody who looks like your Rasul, who sounds like your Rasul, who walks like your Rasul, who talks like your Rasul. Someone who that whenever people would come to us and they say, we never met Rasulullah, we wanted to see, what does Rasulullah look like? Tell us. They said, look at my son Ali al-Akbar, that will give you an idea of what Rasulullah would look like. People would come and do ziyarah of Ali al-Akbar just to be able to think that they did the ziyarah of Rasulullah. Said, Ya Allah, this is why I'm sending out to fight these enemies. Be witness to them that these individuals, these enemies, this is who they're trying to fight, somebody like this. Ali al-Akbar goes out into battle. He begins fighting very, very valiantly. Some report that this is where the heart, Imam Hussein now, it's tough for him to be an imam, he's also a father too. And they say that the heart of him as a father kicks in here. And he says, Ya Allah, if you see it in your wisdom, if you think that it is proper and appropriate, I want to do ziyarah of my son one last time. Can you bring him back to me? Imam Hussein doesn't even know if this is the proper thing to ask for, but he's a father, he wants to see his son one last time. And Allah answers the dua of Imam Hussein, and Ali al-Akbar in the middle of battle leaves and comes back, which is a very strange thing to do, but he comes back to his father. And Ali al-Akbar, he is a young man, but it's almost as if Ali al-Akbar is like a young child in front of his father. He's saying, Baba, did you see how I was fighting? Are you proud of me? Did you see what I was doing? He says, yes, Bunayya, I'm very proud of you. I watch you, you're doing very well. But then these words that he says next to his father breaks the heart of Hussein. He says, Baba, he says, I wish I could fight more. I wish I could go and kill more of these enemies, but this armor is becoming very, very heavy for me. This sword that I'm carrying, it's getting too heavy for me. This is straining me. I'm losing my stamina. I'm losing my strength. Is there even a sip of water that I can have? All the fathers here know the only thing that we would want to do as fathers, whenever our children have a small request like this, of course we want to take care of it. Imagine the broken heart of Hussein. He can't even give his son a small drip of water, not even a small sip of water. And this is where riwayat say, maybe, he says, I wish I had something to give you. Don't break the heart of your father. I can't honor this request. He takes off his ring. He says, put this in your mouth. Maybe this will cool you off enough. This begins to cool the mouth of Ali al-Akbar. Then he says, okay, Baba, now I'm going to go back out into the battlefield. And now Imam Hussein knows that this is the last time I will see my son. As he begins to go out, Ali Akbar already has permission, but he hears somebody coming behind him. He turns around and he sees Imam Hussein, his father, behind him again. He says, Baba, what are you doing? You've already given me permission. I have given you my final salams. Why are you following me? He says, Bunayya, you are not a father yet. You don't know how difficult this is for me. You don't know how difficult it is for a father to see his son go out for the last time. This is breaking my heart. I want to just hold you and comfort you. I don't want you to go, but I know I have to send you out like this. So let me see you and do ziyarat of you one last time. Finally, Ali al-Akbar goes back out to the battlefield for the last time. He begins defeating more enemies. One individual who sees the connection and sees and rejects, or sees and accepts that this is the beloved of Imam Hussein. He sees that if I stop this person, this will break Imam Hussein's heart, then I will do this. I will be the one who kills this person. So he takes a spear, he takes a lance, and he goes and he strikes Ali al-Akbar very, with a lot of strength, so much so that Ali al-Akbar loses his balance off of his horse and falls down. When he does this, Ali al-Akbar still has some strength left in his body, so he tries to grab the head of his horse so that he can hang on and get back on. But now this horse has become scared. It sees all these enemy soldiers and everyone around him. So Ali al-Akbar is now hanging on by the neck and head of his horse, and the horse, being confused, runs into the ranks of the enemy soldiers. And when this happens, Ali al-Akbar has no way to protect himself and defend himself. All the enemy soldiers take their swords and they begin slashing and striking Ali al-Akbar over and over and over again. When Ali al-Akbar realizes that he will not survive this is now when he makes that unique call that no one else made in Karbala. Whenever everyone else, when they would succumb to their wounds, when they knew that they would become shaheed and they had their final breaths, they would call out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Assalamu alayka ya Mawla. They would send their final salams like this. But only one time we see in Karbala, a call is made where he says, Baba, Baba, Abata, Abata. The only time Imam Hussein is referred to as a father. Imam Hussein hears this. He tries his best to come running to the body of Ali al-Akbar. He's screaming and asking his Baba for help, but by the time he gets there, he's not able to reach in time. And because Ali al-Akbar is waiting for his father to come, some say, the poets remind us that perhaps Ali al-Akbar is afraid that because Imam Hussein doesn't have water for him, maybe he won't come to the body of his son. So he says, Baba, let me tell you what I can see in front of me. Don't worry about water. Your grandfather and my grandfather is here. Rasulullah is here and he has a cup of water for me. Rasulullah is giving you salams and he says, come to me, Hussein. Pretty soon I will give you some water to drink as well. Maybe this is what Ali al-Akbar wanted to say so that Imam Hussein would reach him in time. But some riwayat tell us that Imam Hussein was not able to reach the body of Ali al-Akbar in time. And this is now when Imam Hussein finally reaches the body of Ali al-Akbar. Instead of holding him chest to chest as he did with Qasim and hugging him like he did to many others, instead of taking his head and putting it on the lap as he did with many other companions, they said he took his cheek, he took his face and put it right on the cheek and face of his son. And he said loudly, this dunya now has no meaning for me. After the enemies have killed someone like you, this dunya is meaningless to me. This dunya is like dust for me. How can I live after losing you, oh my Akbar? Allah, these enemies have killed the greatest of people. How can you have allowed this? How can you have these people like this? Ya Allah, stop them. Do not allow them to continue. Take away your blessings from these individuals. Then the next thing that happened broke Imam Hussein's heart. The enemies report themselves that they saw a woman running from the tents towards the battlefield. And when that call was heard, Zainab came and fell on top of the body of Ali al-Akbar. This is so difficult for Imam Hussein. Every other time he would go out and bring the bodies of the companions back, it was just that shaheed he would have to bring back. But now Imam Hussein, he has to leave the body of Ali al-Akbar on the battlefield. He has to pick up Zainab and bring her back first. She was screaming, oh my nephew, oh my child, oh my beloved, how can I see you like this? Imam Hussein takes Zainab back to the camps, and now he finally is able to take the body of Ali al-Akbar back to the camps as well.
وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. ماتم حسين.
Hi, hi, Qasim, hi, Qasim. 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 कैदी बनकर पाबंद रसन लाशों से जो गुजरे अहले हरम. हर बीबी अपने प्यारों से ہوتی تھی ودا کر کے ماتم ایک بی بی فاطمہ بنت حسن پامال بدن قاسم کی بہن کسی ایک جا سے رخصت نہ ہوئی کسی ایک جا سے رخصت نہ ہوئی ٹکڑوں میں جو تھا بھائی کا بدن کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم تیری بھیڑ غریب نو نہیں بھولڑا تیری بھیڑ غریب نو نہیں بھولڑا تیرے قتل دا منظر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی صحرا دیکھ کے روتی تھی کبھی غش کھا کے گر جاتی تھی کبھی صحرا دیکھ کے روتی تھی کبھی غش کھا کے گر جاتی تھی پامال ہوا تھا بھائی جہاں پامال ہوا تھا بھائی جہاں اس خون پہ گر کر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم وچ رسیا دے پابند ہوئی نئی بھیڑ غریب دوس کوئی وچ رسیا دے پابند ہوئی نئی بھیڑ غریب دوس کوئی ہندے ہتھ آزاد تے مر جاندی ہندے ہتھ آزاد تے مر جاندی تیرا ماتم کر کر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کس شان سے تم دولہا تھے بنے کس شان سے تھی بارات چلی کس شان سے تم دولہا تھے بنے کس شان سے تھی بارات چلی بیٹھی رہی دلہن حجرے میں بیٹھی رہی دلہن حجرے میں آئے نہ پلٹ کر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم تنو نال دعا واما اجڑی میدان دے پیاسے تور اسی تنو نال دعا واما اجڑی میدان دے پیاسے ٹور اسی اندھی محنت کر پامال گیا اندھی محنت کر پامال گیا 9 لکھ دا لشکر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم فروان نے کہا بیٹا قاسم کہہ دینا دادی زہرا سے فروان نے کہا بیٹا قاسم کہہ دینا دادی زہرا سے غربت کی کمائی ٹکڑوں میں غربت کی کمائی ٹکڑوں میں بھیجی ہے سجا کر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم سنوراس نائی کر بو بلا تو بھاج کفن میں بھاج ردا سنوراس نائی کر بو بلا تو بھاج کفن میں بھاج ردا ٹڈ قتل دے بعد لائنا نے ٹڈ قتل دے بعد لائنا نے میڈی لٹ لئی چادر ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ہائے ہائے قاسم ہائے قاسم ابھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم کبھی اس ٹکڑے پر ہائے قاسم جاؤ حسین جاؤ حسین جاؤ حسین
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا سيد الشهداء بكربلاء يا أبا عبد الله، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم يا أئمة المعصومين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا حجة القائم بن حسن المهدي مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجا وسهل الله مخرجا وظهورا وجعلنا من خير أعوانه وأنصاره وشياعه والمستشهدين بين يديه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.